Thank you, Mel Course. Luke 17, verses 7 through 10. Luke 17, verse 7 through 10. Do you know the difference between a servant and a volunteer? A volunteer picks and chooses when and even whether to serve. A servant serves no matter what. A volunteer serves when convenient. A servant serves out of commitment. Someone said it well. The servant does what he is told when he is told to do it. The volunteer does what he wants to do when he feels like doing it. 1 Peter 2:16 says and challenges us to live as servants of God. The issue is not whether we will serve, but where we will serve. The United Way boasted many years ago that it had the largest pool of volunteers, and the church rebutted and said it had the largest pool of volunteers. President Bush initiated the point of lights, and he began to challenge the nation to find places of darkness and try to initiate lights to brighten the corners through projects and through different efforts to bring light into places of darkness. The thesis of this morning's sermon is to challenge us to raise the argument of whether or not the church is still boasting about whether we are a pool of volunteers or have we graduated yet to become servants. Could it be that Brentwood, like many churches, have a whole crew of volunteers, but they have not become servants of God? Hear me again, in case you missed it. A volunteer picks and chooses when they want to serve, and a servant has no choice. So how many volunteers in the room and how many servants do we have? How sad, Pastor Ratliff, if you've been here 35 years and all you got is a bunch of volunteers. The agony of this text is that there are several parables that Jesus would tell, and we used to, in seminary, debate some of these obscure ones, and this is one of those obscure ones. The others have a lot of flair, and they were very clear. But here Jesus has the nerve to tell these fellas this. Let's read it together. I'll read it aloud. Verse 7. Chapter 17. And which of you, having a servant plowing or tending sheep, will say to him when he has come in from the field, come at once and sit down to eat? But will he not rather say to him, prepare something for my supper, and gird yourself and serve me till I have entered, eaten, and drunk, and afterwards you will eat and drink? Does he thank that servant because he did the things that were commanded him? I think not. So likewise you, when you have done all those things which you are commanded, say, we are unprofitable servants. We have done what was our duty to do. Is that supposed to inspire you? Is that supposed to encourage you? And every time I read that, every time in any version of the Bible, it challenges me to challenge you as it has challenged me to begin to try to see what does it mean to be a servant and what does it mean to be a volunteer. Which one are you? As I go through these 4 points that I think this parable teaches us, I want you to ask yourselves, which one am I? Number one, a servant's work is not always sensational. Sometimes we recruit people to a ministry by telling them how much fun and how exciting it is going to be if you join this ministry. The truth is that serving is strenuous and not always thrilling. Oh, we're guilty trying to make church ministries, so exciting. Oh, and we come up with gimmicks trying to compete with all the stuff that you're in. But ministry and servanthood is not always sensational. To serve God, to be of service, is not always sensational. I had the privilege Friday night of attending the Deacons Appreciation Service. You were not aware of it because what we do here at Brentwood is we elect deacons. We elect men and women to serve as deacons, and they have a term requirement of 3 years, and then they can serve 2 terms, which is 6 years. And then in the 7th year, there's a mandatory break. They have to rest for a year, and then they come back. Our deacons are elected for life, but their terms of service are 3 years. And then 6 total. And then they have to break, and then they come back. And some of them have come back twice, sometimes 3 times. It was inspirational to hear the stories and the testimonies of these men and women who have served. That's not a glamorous job. These are the men and women who not just uniform themselves monthly to hand out communion, but then to carry communion to many of you in this room who have been in hospitals or been at home. These are the men and women who visit you and call you and comfort you and in deaths and visited and hospitals and come to nursing homes of your loved ones. Nothing sensational about that. In their routineness, in their sense of duty, they serve. And many times with no thanks. For we're dealing with a generation of folk, who don't know how to say thank you. Not only do you not teach your children to say thank you, but you don't have thank you on your lips. The first point of this lesson is that a servant's work is not always sensational. Wow. The food pantry. My goodness. There are folk in this room right now, every week, they come out here and they will box up bags and they'll prepare bags, and then they will be out there in the LLC, and you should see the hundreds of people who gather every week to come and get foodstuffs from our church, from that first offering that you give, and they will come from zip codes from all over the city, Arcola, every direction, all races. And they'll come out there, and those volunteers, because of their sustainability, have become servants. And they distribute that food, and many of those people never say thank you. Nothing sensational about what they do. These ushers who try to make it comfortable for you. And some of y'all, ha ha ha. We have hundreds. I don't know what the real number is now. We got 150 ushers at this church. My goodness, all ages. And I see them trying to make it comfortable, trying to direct you. Some of y'all just ignore it, whatever they're trying to. David said, I'd rather be a doorkeeper. I started saying, anywhere but Brentwood. That's the first point of the sermon, that a servant's work is not always sensational. Wow. Are you a servant or a volunteer? Then serving must be sustained. The job description for a servant is very simple and straightforward. Do everything your master commands. You don't have any choice. For many of us, to determine whether you're a volunteer or a servant, most of us, if you don't like what's going on, you take your ball and go home. That's how you know you're a volunteer. Instead of holding your nose and just bearing it, it has to be sustainable. It has to be sustainable. Wow. That's why choirs are always so interesting, because you got to rehearse every week, but you only sing once a month. Let me try it again. Male chorus got to practice every week, but they sing once a month. Church choir got to practice every week, sing first Sunday. VOP got to practice every week, sing third Sunday. Chorale every week, sing the fourth Sunday. Ladies choir, women's choir, sing, practice every week, sing once a quarter. Mass choir, once a quarter. And then, because we can tell who the volunteers are in the choir, because this group think they singing for Jesse, they think they singing for Jeffrey. Church choir think the volunteers in that group think they singing for Lydia. The volunteers in the women's choir think they singing for Jessie Mae. The volunteers in the chorale think they singing for Barksdale. So whenever they get mad, they stop singing. And they sit in the audience. They come to church, but they ain't gonna sing. Because they volunteers. When you realize you ain't singing for nobody but the Lord. When you are serving the Lord, you hold your nose. Realize you ain't singing for Lydia, Jesse, Barksdale, Jeff. Number 3. Who's reading Romans for me?
Romans 12:1. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service.
Not only is a servant's work not sensational, not only is serving God must be sustained, but serving God is a sacrifice. We are not entitled to a word of thanks or appreciation. Our focus is often on our feelings, whereas this servant was determined just to do his job. Somehow or another, a servant realizes that I'm making a sacrifice. I'm making a sacrifice. I don't care what organization, top ladies, we're so proud to have you. But it doesn't take long to figure out how many of y'all, your group, is committed. It's just a core group, a core of your group, Madam President, that you can count on. I'm a member of a fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha, ain't but a few of us. You can collect the dues from most of us, but ain't but a much of us gonna do. Preach, Reverend Ratliff. Sacrifice. But in this business of the kingdom,
all right,
Pastor Ratliff, how many of this congregation do you have are servants? And how many are volunteers? Are you a volunteer or are you a servant? All these years you've been coming to church.
my God.
Are you still volunteering? Have you not graduated yet? Jesus told them, if you're going to be my disciple, pick up your cross. Follow me. Our forefathers penned a hymn says, if you love me, why not serve me? Soldiers of the cross. I just want to challenge us today, because the truth of it is that serving is a sacrifice.
All right.
I look around this room and I see many of you who have, in your careers, who have sacrificed. But to sacrifice for God. Arnold Toynbee, the great historian, argued that you can study great periods of history by studying the great men and women of those periods. And so when I call names like Martin King and Mandela, Mother Teresa, you just begin to name, all you got to do is study those people, and attached to every one of those names is the word sacrifice.
All right.
The American Psychological Society argued in 1999, if it wasn't, it was 2000, that preachers' kids, 4 out of 5 of them refused to go to church when they got grown because the church had become the mistress to their fathers. And it was the church who robbed them of their father. And the church became the justifiable whore who kept their father from their games and their proms and their concerts because the pastor felt justified. I can't come to your stuff because I had to go visit the sick and go to church. And so the children grew up resenting because the preacher felt in his mind justified. What sacrifices have you made to reach the top of your ladder, to reach the goals that you have set? Hear me, church. To be a servant means to sacrifice. But Jesus says it all when he invites us to be reminded that you and I do have to sacrifice. But God rewards those who are faithful to him. Yeah. I never forget. Oh my goodness. My goal was to be a lawyer. I wanted to be a barrister. I wanted to be a jurist. I had my goals set on other things besides pastoring. I was a young, earned doctorate at 25, and I was going to be in the academy, and I was going to do all this and all of that. But when you're a servant, then you got to do what the master says. And God redirected my path. I said, now God, what? I'm on a path here, man. I'm on the way somewhere, Doc. I took my first step, got my doctorate. I'm teaching at the university. I'm going to law school now. And what? Now what? Bill Lawson said, no. He used Dr. Lawson to talk to me, and I didn't want to hear Bill. I wasn't studying God because I got my stuff mapped out. But when the master says do something, then you got to do what the master says. I only had 2 churches. My first church was there in Atlanta. Small church. Never got more than 200 people. I got there. I was the little pastor that had to do everything. I cut the lights on. I cut the lights off. Turned the heat on. Turned the heat off. Picked up after the church. People left. Picked it up. Didn't have no janitor until we could afford one. And then we got one dirt cheap because he was drunk. So as long as we could keep him sober, it was cool. But if he was off, he fell off, then I had to pick up the janitor duties. So I had 2 churches, that church and this church. What am I trying to tell you? Number 4, that serving God is satisfying. Now think of it this way. The Lord of glory has you in his service. In that sense, serving is very satisfying because it's an honor and a privilege. It's an honor. It's a privilege to be used by God. Oh my God. And when God redirected my path, I said, now God, what are you doing? Looked like I was on my way. And then God brought me here. And the rest is history. Wow. Never thought I'd be talking to y'all. I mean, there are more people in the top ladies than was in my whole church. No, I'm serious. And you begin to think about what God has done in your life. And you begin to thank him for the blessings, for the honor and the privilege of service. And the beauty of what serving God does is that it spills over into your secular, into your professional, into your vocational, into your avocational life. He just doesn't bless you in church. He blesses you in every sphere.
Yes, he does. All right.
Oh, somebody ought to be thanking him right now. Now, if you ain't figured out that the Lord blesses you because you've been faithful here on your job, it ain't because you're so smart, but because you've been faithful over a few things. He'll make you ruler over many. Do I have any witnesses in the room? He'll elevate you. He'll promote you. Lady told me the other day, she said, Pastor, I've been laid off. I said, you have? And she just grinning. I said to myself, I'm saying, So I've been laid off. I said, yeah. She said, yeah. So I'm thanking the Lord. I said, yeah. And she just said, oh. She said, I think I got a job lined up, but it ain't going to start till next month. I said, yeah. She said, I lost all my health benefits in January. I said, yeah. I said, this is March. I said, yeah. And she said, I ain't going to start till April 1. I said, yeah. She said, but I'm thanking God. I said, yeah. She said, yeah, because, I've been healthy all these 3 months. I ain't had to go to the doctor. I mean, she just thanking God. I was tripping. I said, well, yeah. You got to learn how to thank God in everything. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. It pays to serve Jesus. It pays every day. It pays every step of the way. Though your pathway to glory may sometimes be drear, you'll be happy each step of the way. People may not say thank you, but you be thankful that God allowed you to help, that God allowed you to be used, that God allowed you to be a blessing to somebody, even if they didn't have enough sense to say thank you. Because guess what? Your reward is in heaven. But guess what? God is so good, he ain't going to just wait till you get to heaven. He'll bless you right now. He'll bless you. And folk will wonder how you got blessed. And this new Negro will ask you, how you get that? How you ain't got as much education as I get. How you get that promotion? This new Negro will ask you, how you get that house? Your credit, you don't make as much money as I got. How you send them children to college? How you a single mama? But let me tell you when it really get good. When you be walking around your house all by yourself and your soul looks back and wonder how I got over. Hey! 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 talking to today. But somebody owes God some praise. I said somebody owes God some praise. As good as God's been to you, you owe him. Hallelujah. 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 Y'all gotta forgive me, but I feel all right up in here. Hey! Because I'm happy in the service of the King. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Glory, glory, glory. Hallelujah. Why don't you just go ahead and praise him right where you are.